My sister hid a secret for years, and it destroyed our family 3 weeks ago. I learned a truth that shattered my entire family. It began with a single phone call late in the evening. At first, I thought it was just another ordinary conversation. But by the end of that call, nothing about my family felt ordinary anymore. For years, my sister had been hiding something from all of us. Not a small lie, not a simple mistake. A secret that had been growing quietly for nearly a decade. And when the truth finally surfaced, it didn't just hurt one person. It broke the trust that had held our entire family together. Stories like this are often shared on Exposed Stories media, where people reveal truths that were hidden for years. But when something like this happens inside your own family, it feels very different. Because betrayal from strangers is painful. But betrayal from someone you love can change your life forever. To understand how everything fell apart, you have to understand my sister first. My sister Emily was always the responsible one in our family. She was 4 years older than me. Growing up, she was the child everyone trusted. Teachers praised her discipline. Neighbors admired her kindness. Even our parents believed she would always make the right choices. While I was the quiet younger sibling who avoided attention, Emily was confident and capable. She handled problems calmly. She rarely argued. If something went wrong in the family, Emily was usually the one helping to fix it. That was why no one ever questioned her. When Emily got married in the year 2012, our family celebrated like we had just gained another member we could trust. Her husband Daniel seemed polite and respectful. He worked in finance and spoke carefully about his future plans. My parents believed Emily had built a stable life for herself. For the first few years, everything appeared normal. Emily and Daniel bought a small house on the edge of the city. 2 years later, they had their first child. Family gatherings became even more frequent. Every Sunday evening, our parents hosted dinner at their house. Emily would bring dessert. Daniel usually brought a bottle of wine. The atmosphere was warm and relaxed. My father often looked around the table with quiet pride. He believed his family had grown stronger with time. Looking back now, those evenings feel strange in my memory. Because while we were sharing laughter and stories, something was already beginning to unravel. The first small sign appeared in the year 2016. It was subtle enough that no one paid attention at first. Emily began asking our parents for financial help. At the beginning, the amounts were small. She said Daniel's business investments were temporarily tied up. My parents helped without hesitation. Helping family was never considered unusual in our household. But the requests slowly became more frequent. Months passed. The amounts became larger. Each time Emily explained that it was temporary. She promised everything would return to normal soon. Our parents believed her. After all, Emily had never given them a reason to doubt her before. For a long time, I didn't think about it very much. I lived in another city for work. My visits home were less frequent than before. Most of what I knew about the situation came from short phone conversations. My mother would mention that Emily needed help again. She always sounded a little worried. But she also trusted Emily. That trust kept everyone calm. The first moment that made me uneasy happened during a visit home in the year 2018. Emily arrived late to dinner that evening. She looked tired. Not the usual kind of tired from work. There was something else in her expression. A tension that I had never seen before. She smiled and greeted everyone normally. But I noticed she barely touched her food. Daniel was not with her that night. She explained he had to work late. No one questioned the explanation. Still, something about the atmosphere felt different. The conversation at the table moved carefully around certain topics. My father tried to keep the discussion light. My mother asked about Emily's son, but Emily herself seemed distracted. Several times she checked her phone during dinner. Her expression changed each time she looked at the screen. Concern, then relief, then concern again. At the time, I told myself I was imagining things. But small details can become important later. That night became one of those details. Over the next 2 years, our family continued living normally on the surface. Emily visited often. Her son grew older. Family dinners continued. But behind that normal routine, financial problems were quietly spreading. The requests for money never completely stopped. Sometimes months passed without mention. Then suddenly another problem appeared. Daniel's business had unexpected losses. An investment failed. A payment was delayed. Each explanation sounded reasonable. And because Emily had always been trustworthy, no one questioned her. Until the night everything changed. It happened on a quiet Thursday evening. I had just finished work when my phone rang. The call was from my father. He rarely called late at night unless something was wrong. When I answered, his voice sounded different. Heavy, serious. He asked me a simple question. Did Emily ever mention anything about a bank loan? At first I thought he meant a small personal loan, something temporary. But my father quickly explained that a bank representative had contacted him earlier that day. The representative said there was an issue with a loan connected to our family. My father told them they must have the wrong person. He had never applied for a loan, but the bank insisted the documents were legitimate. The loan was large, extremely large. And according to the paperwork, my father's name was connected to it. At that moment, confusion filled the conversation. Neither of us understood how that could be possible. My father promised to visit the bank the next morning. He said he would call me once he knew more. That night, none of us slept well. The next morning changed everything. My father arrived at the bank early. He asked the staff to show him every document connected to the loan. At first, the employees assumed he already knew the situation, but when they realized he had never signed any paperwork, the atmosphere became tense. They brought out a thick file. Inside were several official forms, loan agreements, identification copies, financial statements. Everything appeared legitimate, except for one detail. The signatures. They belonged to my sister Emily. The loan had been approved 2 years earlier. The total amount was nearly $1 million. And the documents showed that my sister had acted as the representative in the application. When my father told me this over the phone, I felt the ground disappear beneath me. Emily had borrowed an enormous amount of money, using documents connected to our parents, without telling anyone. That evening, our entire family gathered at our parents' house. The atmosphere was tense long before Emily arrived. My mother sat quietly at the table. My father placed the bank documents in front of him. No one spoke very much. We were all waiting for the same moment. When Emily finally walked through the door, she greeted us with her usual smile. But the moment she noticed the silence in the room, her expression changed. My father slowly pushed the documents across the table. He looked directly at her and asked one question. Emily, what is this? For several seconds, Emily didn't move. Her eyes moved from the documents to my father's face, then to my mother, then to me. The room felt completely still. Finally, she sat down slowly. Her hands rested on the edge of the table, and in a quiet voice, she said something none of us expected. I was hoping you would never find out. That was the moment everything began to fall apart. And what we learned next would be even worse than we imagined. Part 2. The room felt colder after Emily spoke those words. No one expected her to admit it so quickly. For years we believed she was the most trustworthy person in our family. Now we were staring at documents that proved she had been hiding something enormous. My father asked her the most obvious question. Why? Emily stayed quiet for a long moment. Her eyes moved slowly across the table, avoiding everyone's gaze. Finally, she spoke. She said the loan was never meant to hurt anyone. At first, it had only been a temporary solution. Daniel's business had suffered unexpected losses. Investments that were supposed to return profits had collapsed instead. He told Emily the situation would recover quickly. All they needed was time. Emily believed him. She believed that borrowing money quietly would give them the time they needed. If the business recovered, she could repay the loan before anyone ever discovered it. But the recovery never came. Instead, the losses grew worse. Daniel continued taking risks in the hope of fixing the problem. Each new decision pushed them deeper into debt. Emily tried to keep everything hidden. She believed protecting the family from stress was the right thing to do. But the truth became harder to control with each passing month. The loan from the bank had not solved their problem. It had only delayed it. The silence in the room became heavier as she explained. My mother covered her mouth with her hand. She wasn't angry. She was heartbroken. The idea that Emily had carried this burden alone for years was difficult for her to understand. My father reacted differently. He remained calm, but his voice carried a weight that none of us had heard before. He asked Emily another question. Did Daniel know she used our parents' documents to secure the loan? Emily nodded slowly. Yes, Daniel knew. That answer changed the atmosphere instantly. Until that moment, some part of us believed Daniel might not have understood what Emily was doing. But now it was clear that both of them had made the decision together. My father leaned back in his chair. He closed his eyes briefly before speaking again. The next question came slowly. How much of the loan was still unpaid? Emily hesitated. Then she answered. Almost all of it. The words felt like a shock moving through the room. Nearly $1 million remained unpaid. Interest had been accumulating for 2 years. My father placed both hands on the table. He looked at Emily carefully. Then he asked the question that would change everything again. Where is Daniel now? Emily lowered her eyes. Her voice became even quieter. She said Daniel had left the house 3 weeks earlier. At first, none of us understood what she meant. Then she explained. Daniel had disappeared. He said he needed time to solve the financial crisis. He promised he would return once everything was fixed. But he never came back. No phone calls. No messages. No explanation. Just silence. Emily realized she had been left alone with the debt. For 3 weeks she tried to handle everything herself. She contacted lawyers. She spoke to the bank. But the situation was too large for her to control. The truth was slowly closing in on her. When the bank finally contacted my father, the secret collapsed. At that moment, I understood something that frightened me. Emily had not only been hiding a secret, she had been trapped inside it. For years, stories like this appear often on Exposed Stories media, where people reveal painful truths hidden inside families. But when you sit inside the story yourself, it doesn't feel like a story. It feels like your entire life shifting beneath your feet. My father finally stood up from the table. He walked slowly to the window and stared outside for several minutes. No one interrupted him. We all knew he was thinking about the same thing. How do you fix something this broken? When he finally turned back to the table, his expression had changed. He wasn't angry. He was determined. And what he said next surprised all of us. Part 3 Aftermath Fair Reflection. My father said something that none of us expected. He said the problem would not destroy our family, but the secret already had. The money was a serious issue, but trust was the real damage, and trust would take much longer to repair. My father made one decision immediately. The family would face the problem together. Running away from it would only make things worse. Emily began crying for the first time that night. Not quiet tears. Deep, exhausted sobs that seemed to carry years of fear and guilt. My mother moved beside her and held her shoulders. For the first time since the conversation began, the room felt human again. Painful, but honest. Over the next several weeks, our family worked through the consequences. Lawyers reviewed the loan agreements. The bank negotiated repayment options. Every conversation was difficult, but something important had changed. There were no more secrets. Emily told us everything. Every financial decision. Every argument she had with Daniel. Every moment she realized the situation was slipping out of control. The truth was complicated. Daniel had not simply failed in business. He had taken dangerous financial risks. He believed one big success would solve everything. Instead, it destroyed everything. Emily had tried to protect him. She believed loyalty meant standing beside him no matter what happened. But loyalty without honesty had created a disaster. Eventually, the family reached a painful but necessary agreement. Emily would work with the bank to restructure the loan. Our parents would help with a portion of the payments. The rest would take years to resolve. But at least the truth was no longer hidden. Time passed slowly after that night. Family dinners returned, though they felt different. The laughter was quieter. The conversations were more careful. Trust, once broken, never returns instantly. But it can begin to rebuild. Emily changed during those months. She became more honest about her fears, more open about her mistakes. And slowly, we began to understand something important. Secrets grow stronger in silence. But truth, even painful truth, allows people to move forward. That lesson stayed with me long after everything happened. It is the reason I decided to share this story, because stories like this matter. They remind us that families are not perfect. They are complicated. They are fragile. And sometimes the people we trust the most are also capable of the deepest mistakes. At Exposed Stories Media, many stories reveal hidden truths that change lives forever. This is one of them. If you listened to this story and it made you think about your own family, you are not alone. Secrets exist in many homes, but facing the truth is always the first step toward healing. If you want to hear more real stories like this one, make sure you subscribe to Exposed Stories Media. New stories are shared here regularly. Stories about hidden secrets, family betrayals, and the moments when truth finally comes to light. And if this story stayed with you, there are many more waiting for you on this channel. Because sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones people tried to hide the longest.